morning, everybody. Text Homer, Eric Nalin, Coach Dub. Spring Ball Eve is right around the corner. And guess what? We've got you covered over here at Inside Texas. $1 for 4 months. Hell of a deal, right, Eric? So you guys need to go over there and join InsideTexas.com today. Latest recruiting news. We know Coach Dub is going to drop an RPM here shortly. So make sure to go sign up and join the site, and you can see how we're doing in recruiting. And then, of course, Eric never misses with his spring practice reporting. You will know the ins and outs of your favorite program. $1, 4 months, InsideTexas.com. We would love to see you guys. All right. Good morning to everyone. AR, good morning. Just a dude. Let's go. We're almost there, guys. We don't have to talk theoreticals as much. All right. Eric, you dropped quite an excellent article, information packed, position by position insider notes. Let's run through the positions. This is what sources around the programs have said about the players, what they're looking for most importantly in spring, and then just the positives of, who we should kind of bet on early. Ready to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Shoot.
Let's do it. For the algorithm, let's start quarterback. And one source said he wants to see a Heisman-type spring out of Arch Manning. And so do I, Eric. But what have they seen leading up to that lets them believe that that's possible?
Well, I think he has all the makings to be a great quarterback on and off the field. The leadership is there. All the intangibles are there. The tangibles are there. He's made some incredible throws. They just want to see him put it all together. The on-field leadership, the command of the offense, hitting the open receiver, but also making plays with his legs. He brings a totally different elements of the quarterback position. I think he's more of he's got the team's attention more than Quinn. Quinn was a good leader, but not sort of a guy that everybody gravitated to. Arch is a man of the people. Like I wrote in the article, he doesn't care if you're his top wide receiver target or you're the 85th guy on scholarship. They love Arch. They feel like Arch has their back. If you got in a fight, Arch is going to be right there with them. If your car breaks down on the side of the road, call Arch. He'll be there for you. They just feel like the guy's a complete player, and they want to see him just put it all together. They know that the ability's there, but they want to see him kind of just come out, start fast, and take over, take control, and look like a guy that's got a chance to lead them to a national championship.
I think that's tracked with Arch, even behind the scenes with him getting the team has liked him, man, and he has that natural trait. Yeah. So, hey, man, so we got off-season leadership check, making some nice throws check. This is all the spring ball stuff we need right here from Arch Manning. Coach, how you feeling? You think Manning is gonna be a force in year one?
I definitely do. Look, hearing stories about Manning when he first arrived, even as a freshman, like getting the guys like, hey, let's go throw. Y'all can move my stuff into the dorm. I got work to do. Like that type of mentality is just different. You don't see it out of most people, right? And so he's all about business. I think he's going to have a terrific year, but this is a terrific start to the spring ball, man. Like he does have everybody's back, right? And everybody believes in him. I think he has that it factor, something you just can't account for, right? He's going to, at the end of the day, he's going to pull everybody together and rally together. You can believe in him. It's almost like Vince on 4th and 5. Like you just know he's gonna make a play. I feel like Arch is that same type of player and has that same type of aura about him, right? Just that he's just gonna be that guy that lift Texas to the next level. Thank you, Quinn. What did you say? What's the quote? Quinn walks so Arch can run. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And even like with Arch going to the sideline, whatever game it was, he's doing like slime and all that stuff. We got a different.
Hey, that kid grew up in a nice environment and all that, but he's still from New Orleans.
I was gonna say it's still.
You see all those videos? I don't know why the Instagram algorithms always finds me, but you got these white kids in Louisiana dancing crazy. Yeah. And everybody's like, oh, white boys in Louisiana are different. I think they kind of are.
Well, it's funny because they're of the Louisiana culture, New Orleans culture, but they're also wearing their khakis, which is very much like Arch. He goes and puts on the polo after
they're braided belts. But he's got the respect to everybody in the room. Coaches love him. The whole playbook is open to him. Like it's all there for the taking. And I think he's gonna live up to the hype and then some.
And, man, I think just the reps last year are going to prove invaluable.
Sure.
So him to be able to play early in the year, get some reps versus A&M, that matters. So it works out. When Arch had that mean one look on his face after he scored on A&M, I just knew the SEC was cooked. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That was hilarious. All right. Arch isn't the only quarterback though. Trey Owens, so I know a lot of people are excited about. I am as well. What are the keys for Owens as they're looking for a clear number 2 to back up Arch in case any weirdness happens?
Yeah, I think we actually, I'm surprised, but I've kind of been hearing that there might be some real competition. Maybe not in the spring, but come August for that backup between Lacey and Owens. Owens needs to do a better job needs to do a good job of taking the playbook from the classroom to the field. Just the processing speed. A lot of the stuff you always hear about second-year quarterbacks. He's got all the arm talent and all these other things. But he's tough. Again, he has some good intangibles as well. But yeah, he's not quite the playmaker with his legs. And I think, this playbook that they're going to start running is a little bit more conducive to athletic quarterbacks. Arch is athletic. KJ's athletic. Trey's not really a statue. He can move a little bit, but they're not going to. It's more of the Quinn Ewers playbook with Trey. Although I think Trey throws a better deep ball. But yeah, that's going to be a real competition. I think KJ Lacey's going to make a little bit of noise here, and Trey's going to have a good spring to hold him off.
Cool. All right. So, yeah, you mentioned here KJ, his arm impressed in 7-on-7 work. And what was important for KJ, too, to have Ryan Williams to not having Ryan Williams. That was cool to see, too, because you never know, man. You're like, dude, when you got
well, he's got a Ryan Wingo. So, he's still got a Ryan to work with. But KJ's got a lot of the stuff that he can do on the move, which they're gonna move the pocket a whole lot more. They're gonna zone read the quarterback just enough to keep defenses on their heels. Like this is an entirely different playbook. They're gonna throw the ball deep a lot more than they have in the past. But yeah, KJ Lacey fits what they're doing. It just doesn't have necessarily the stature, but Sark identified him very early, kind of like Bryce Young, and I think he's trying to recapture Bryce Young.
That's my comp whenever I watch him play is Bryce Young, and his mobility in the pocket is really solid, man. And he seems like he knows what's going on. So having the full playbook, man, an athletic quarterback Sarkisian offense too is going to be
that's dangerous.
Maybe we beat him down over time, man. Maybe eventually, if we did enough videos, being like, maybe you can run the quarterback. He's always taking his lead from us. It's crazy. We love you, Sark. Enjoy you watching. All right, so quarterback looks good. Any final things there you guys are interested in? Anything that the fans need to know when inevitably one of them throws an interception and the season's ruined? How can you guys, from years of experience, how do you evaluate quarterbacks? What do you want to hear besides like they're just lighting it up?
Decision making, processing speed, accuracy. Just the same things that you want to see in a game. That's what we want to hear about. I don't really need a spring game to tell me what's going on behind the scenes. The practices that we hear about, that's going to be way more telling, far more telling than anything we see in a spring game, which is more scripted than anything else. Yep. I just want to hear that Arch is comfortable and playing fast. And, I guess with him, you want to hear that he's protecting the ball a little bit better. We saw him throw a lot of questionable, he had more of a gunslinger attitude we wrote about it too. We wrote about the week before he started throwing everything up for grabs. I want to see that tamed, but not entirely tamed. You want to keep his aggression. It's kind of like with Silas Bolden last year. You don't want to tame that guy because you're going to keep him from making big plays. You just hope that he plays within himself and isn't too erratic with the ball. But I'm really excited to finally cover Arch in a real way as opposed to through recruiting and practice, because I think he is the complete quarterback: toughness, athleticism, mental intangibles, leadership, all these things. I think he's the most complete quarterback I've covered by far. I mean, and that's just recruiting guys that went to any school. Kyler Murray, I knew Kyler very well as a prospect. Arch is a superior prospect to Kyler Murray, and not just for like pro stature, but I think he's a superior college quarterback.
Yeah.
Cool. Have you been able to see Arch's RPO game at practice? No, but it's he has a quick release, and if you watched him in high school, he can thread it.
Yeah, that was part of the evaluation. Was they love him for the lightning release. They also like the release point on the RPO. You see a lot of tip balls on that.
Yeah.
And so no, that was a huge part of the evaluation. They're going to use RPOs quite a bit this season. They've got some plays, and Ian's going to go into detail on IT coming up. It might look like a simple guard tackle counter, which Lincoln Riley's known for, but there's about 6 or 7 different variations off that play, including a couple RPOs. RPOs are going to feature a lot. You might see a guard tackle counter this year that they run it again. The very next play, it's an RPO. RPOs are going to be a big part of the game.
I love it.
It is a full playbook because we're talking quarterback being able to move, downfield shots, progression passing, RPOs. This is a different thing whenever you're working with all your ingredients in the kitchen. Coach.
Yeah, I do hope that they don't. I hope they don't overload him, because as great as he is,
Yep.
he's still a 20-year-old kid,
Mhm.
and he's still not super experienced. So I hope they don't overload him, going, "Oh, he's a Manning, he can handle it." Because it's, like I said, that one guard tackle counter play, there is a lot on his plate.
Yeah.
Yeah, throw tendencies out the window. It's going to keep a lot of defenses honest early, especially week 2 matchup, right? They won't know what's coming at them. They got to play honest.
You think this guy's talking to everybody or the Westlake people? The morning chaps.
Morning chaps. Very, very British. What are the chances he shouts Omaha at the line? It's got to be 100%. I wonder but good point. I am excited. Like, does Arch get to be, probably not this year, but next year, does he get to be, do we see Phil General Manning? That's what I'd be interested with. Is Arch able to check and see things? Probably not this year, but that'd be fun next year. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to running back. Interesting room. Yeah. Contention here at Inside Texas. But coaches are standing pat. But you did say last week that they might look for a running back in the portal. Let's start with Trey Wisner. I know sometimes we'll get comments of like, y'all are sleeping on Trey. He had 1,000 yards, all that kind of stuff. What's going on with Trey? We love Trey, but what's going on there?
Well, I think they know what they have with Trey quite a bit, and he took a pounding this past season. He's not a small back. It's not like he's undersized, but he's not the type of back you normally see carry it as much as he did. He's a good player. I think they know what he is. Chad Scott's new to him, of course, so you'll want to get a good idea of Trey. But I don't think that he's going to have a super heavy workload. I think they're going to I think they're going to play Jarrett Gibson a lot. They want to get a lot of hats on Jarrett Gibson, make sure he's protecting the football. They're going to want to acclimate the freshman. Christian Clark is going to be a participant up until the point of they go contact, but he'll be full go otherwise. So he's going to get a ton of looks. I just don't think they're going to have to. I don't think they're going to put a lot on Trey this spring. I don't think they feel like they need to. And they'll probably still, give him a little bit of a breather from the season. The season wasn't that long ago, given as long as they played.
And he was taking a ton of reps. That's the thing is you don't want to hurt him, man, especially when you got CJ coming back and all of that. So it's like we have to clearly be smarter about the room. So is it Jarrett Gibson getting a ton of the workload because Jarrett Gibson is viewed as their number one, or he's viewed as their number one because CJ's hurt, or kind of how does that work? What's the rough pecking order?
I think they view him as the potential to be the volume running back next season, and that this is his kind of a trial period, and he'll have a trial period in August as well. But we've heard they're very high on Jarrett. Like I said, I've said in a couple shows, if I had to guess right now who leads the team in yards, touchdowns, and carries next year, I'd go with Jarrett Gibson.
I think it's interesting. And then they're even going to work in James Simon and Ricky Stewart.
Well, they got to, and then it's trial by fire for these guys. That's the perfect time for them. And I think James Simon is a little bit more advanced than a lot of freshmen to the point that he can get carries this year. Running back is a position, if you do the little things right, you can play, especially they're not going to put you in high leverage situations, right? They wouldn't want you on 3rd and 10 where blitz pickup is a key part of the play. But you can go out, that guy can go eat carries in the 3rd quarter, I don't have a great feel for Ricky Stewart's readiness, but so he could surprise. Some of these guys have surprised, right? Trey Wisner surprised everybody. So we'll get a good idea of Ricky here in the next couple of weeks. But I do have a good feeling that James Simon could play this year if needed. But and again, this is going to my confirmation bias because I felt they needed a running back out of the portal since last August. I'm starting to think that probably is more likely than not. But let's see how the spring goes.
Good coach. How do you feel?
Yeah. Look, as far as mentioning James Simon, I think he's a pro's pro just because who his dad is, the family he comes from. I think he'd be able to play early because he understands the mental side of the game better than most people and be ahead, like Eric just said. So I'm ready to see how this room competes, honestly. I know everybody wants to see Jarrett Gibson. I want to see Jarrett Gibson. I think he has that starting running back type of ability. So I can't wait. Like I said, I don't know about Ricky Stewart. I know he's from East Texas, so I know he's a tough kid. I know he can run. I know he can do a lot of great things, but I think we just want to see it. Because most people aren't expecting maybe Ricky Stewart to step onto the scene and do well or be that guy as a freshman, but he may surprise a lot of people. So I can't wait to see what he does. I want to see how Christian Clark looks actually coming off injury. I know we've seen him squatting and seen him moving around, but how does he feel mentally, right? Is he going to be worried about, having another injury or whatever? So I want to see how he moves on the field. So it's going to be interesting. It's an interesting group.
Yeah, the psychological aspect of like, does he really trust that leg? Because that's a different thing when you're out on the field. All right, guys, before we keep going, let's hear from Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Days like this, the anticipation's half the fun. The call to adventure. Possibilities in every direction.
Look at that.
The stories you'll bring back, even the true ones. And always, already, you can't wait until next time. From first catch to biggest catch of the season, this is where it starts. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
All right, wide receiver. We've done a lot of wide receiver coverage, but it's a fun position. It's a fun position to talk about. We got plenty of guys. Let's talk it. So roughly we're thinking we got Ryan Wingo as one outside spot on lock. We would have DeAndre Moore in the slot, but he's injured. So that'll likely lead to the emergence of Dalen McCutcheon. And that other outside spot is kind of what's open. Maybe there's a transfer later, but just for the spring, it seems like it's going to be a battle between Parker Livingstone and Aaron Butler. So what do we know there, Eric?
Yeah, that's going to be one of the biggest competitions of the entire spring. As the source noted, once you get past their different body types, where Livingstone is tall, 6'3", 6'4", so, and Butler is just more like, normal size wide receiver. They're quite similar. They run good routes. They catch everything. They have really good speed. This guy says it might come down to who's just willing to do the dirty work. You got to block for Chris Jackson. That's why Isaiah Bond found the bench so much last year. We know Wingo's willing to block. We know DeAndre Moore's willing to block. We've heard really good things about Livingstone, and I think Butler's willing to mix it up. But I don't know about his ability to follow through on it. But I think that's going to be something that factors into who emerges from the spring as the league guy. Again, that guy's still going to have to compete with a portal transfer, but I think both those guys are going to play this year. It's just a matter of who gets to go out there or who's going to play a little bit more. I still think they might look at Butler in the slot eventually, but Livingstone right now is the lead guy, just because I think he's a little bit more ready. He's got a little bit more of the trust from the coaches and maybe his roommate Arch. But Butler's sounds like a future NFL pro for sure. So that's going to be a fun one. I'm going to be all over that one. And again, we're going to follow it. Who's making the big plays, but also who's making the regular play, who's making the consistently smart play, who's following through on the blockers. The run game is going to be incredibly important this season. And perimeter blocking is sometimes the difference between a 10-yard gain and a 60-yard gain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I'm buying stock in Parker Livingstone, man. I just believe in the kid. I think he can do great things. I think he has the size and speed, go up and win the 50-50 balls, but he's going to do all the small things right? He's going to understand, hey, I'm second or third in this progression. He's going to slow down his route. Like he's going to know where to be at all times. And then your roommate with the quarterback. It's going to be – I'm not calling him Colton and Shipley, but I'm just saying you got a close relationship like that. You're going to find a way to get the ball and find a way on the field. So I'm buying stock in Parker Livingstone all the way.
I'm buying in Butler, and I've been a Livingstone fan since the day he committed. I told that what the article was, people should be more excited about it. But when you hear about Butler, everything is explosive, and then on top of it, he's got good hands. And you start thinking, okay, Xavier Worthy, Matthew Golden, Aaron Butler looks kind of like these two guys. So that's a safe horse to ride with. But then Livingstone adds that different element, that size element, and long speed. I don't think he'd get Butler in a 40, but if he's running a vertical route, he might be the fastest guy outside of Ryan Niblett. And Ryan Niblett's not even on offense anymore. So, it's going to be fun to watch. Those guys are way better talents than I think the networks gave them credit for. Although Butler was rated high by one or two.
I sent you the documentary.
I haven't watched it yet, dude. I mean, I need to do it. I should put it on my iPad over here.
Yeah, it's you'll like them more after it. All right, so another interesting tidbit: Michael Terry working on the outside, and our fans are also super interested in him. So, is he working behind? Do we know? I don't know how granular we got, but is he working behind Wingo, or is he in the rotation with Butler and all of them? You say. Or your source says he's what Savion Red was supposed to be, but taller and in shape. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Savion Red was an interesting athlete. It was just the body type was a bit of a mismatch for what they were trying to do with him, and then the attitude and all that, whatever. Michael Terry, yeah, he's that outside receiver. That's got to be boundary. I didn't ask, but the boundary is that's definitely the one he would be at. I think he's going to end up at slot long term. Maybe there's some chance they wildcat. I don't think we're going to see him wildcat this year. I could be wrong, because they might feel the need to get him on the field. And then, there's some pretty safe opportunities to do so. Maybe he can give the jolt to the red zone offense. I'm not sure, but he's that outside receiver. We'll see what happens. He's got Khaleke Lockett is ahead of him as well. Jamie French potentially, depending on where they play him. And then of course Ryan Wingo's got it on lock, and the aforementioned redshirt freshman. So I think Terry's got a bit of a long path to go, but the step one to getting on the field is finding a position, finding a home, and actually getting time to practice that. He's been moved around so much, whether it's high school, he's been theorized running back, tight end, wide receiver. He needs to find a home and just work at it.
Yeah, he needs reps.
Yeah, he does.
But I love Savion Red, man. He still has one of my favorite huddle plays ever, dude. He carried like an entire defense for like 40 yards one time. Anytime I hear Savion Red with the right mind, I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, he could have been a bowling ball running back.
He
just, man, but it comes down to maximization and nailing that middle eval. Sometimes those late evaluations are great. Aaron Butler was a late one, and sometimes they come with a bit of question.
Yeah, but Savion Red, it's like you knew what was up. Like that was the risk reward of Savion Red. Like you knew it's like this could go horribly, or you're gonna have a team leader dog that's gonna lead you into battle. So it's like there's risk reward with those guys, and you always need a couple of them that are a little bit nuts because you're about to go out into battle. Okay, so and then what's DeAndre Moore is just out. He's not coming later in spring, nothing like that.
Yeah, I mean, we know that he had LASIK. We were hinting at that for the last couple of weeks. I don't know if there's another issue. Honestly, I could undisclosed injury is probably what Sark would go with or something, but I think it's just I just think he's in bubble wrap. I don't know. Maybe he has an injury. I think it's kind of like Jahdae Barron last year, where Jahdae could have practiced a whole lot more than he did during the spring, but they didn't feel the need to. What's the point? He's so important to the team. I think DeAndre Moore is very important to this team, more so than I think a lot of fans realize, because we always think, sometimes we just remember the negatives. He had a couple drops. Sure, I remember the positives. I picked a number of games for him to go off, and he hit a few times for me. I think next year is going to be a constant stream of week in, week out. He's going to be somebody that the teams have to game plan. He's very important, vertical slot, but also some of those slot machine elements as a blocker. And maybe the LASIK is going to pay off, and he's going to convert more of those deep balls.
They don't do eye tests on players like during their physicals. You would think that like I would do it.
Well, no, I mean, I don't know if they do. Maybe sometimes the people are borderline and they don't do it. I don't know the whole ins and outs of it.
It seems common enough though that like across college football, you hear that like a player couldn't see, and you're like, how the hell do we miss that? Crazy. So it's like that's where it's always weird. Like Wingo gets it, and
a number of guys got it. A number of guys got it this offseason, not just more.
But it always like trips me out. But okay, cool. Dalen McCutcheon, who we're also excited about.
Yeah.
He's the third receiver in the class. He wasn't a 5-star or whatever, but we're hearing great things about him too. Future's bright with this team.
It really is.
No, but just getting reps with Arch is where it's at now, though.
I love Dalen McCutcheon. It's going to be funny. There's a path for him to have a better career than DeCorian Moore. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
Moore shot out of nowhere.
That was the obvious replacement for DeCorian, right?
Yeah.
The second they lost DeCorian, I said they need to pivot to Dalen, and I did not give Dalen. It's like that Shaq meme. I'm sorry, I was not familiar with your game.
Yeah.
Once DeCorian started going sideways, I had to look at Dalen a whole lot closer, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, this guy's actually a baller.
Yeah.
And he's turning heads already. More length. Somebody told me more speed than DeAndre Moore. I need to see that one to believe it. But more length and more size than DeAndre. Better hands. Maybe a better route runner at this stage than DeAndre was as a true freshman. Can play inside or outside. So we'll see. I love the kid. I think he's got probably the quickest path to the field because he can sub in for more.
Yeah. I love that one. I'm a big McCutcheon fan, man. I think he can do it all. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. It's the guy in the class that nobody talks about that much. He's just an add-on, but he's going to find a way on the field. Plus, he can play special teams too. I don't know if you saw his film, but he can return kicks. So he has that element to his game, man. He's very smooth in his route running. I love him.
There's a few routes in. Well, I think it was who was it? Corey Mose on Twitter, whatever. He was showing clips of Worthy doing some NFL workouts, but DeAndre and somebody else from the team were also at those workouts. So I always pay attention to that when who are the NFL trainers wanting to train, and from the young guys, and they were talking. He was near it. I don't know how much he's working out, but all right. So offensive line now.
Oh boy, here we go.
I hear. The fans are actually pretty bullish on the offensive line, which I've liked because I thought they were going to be a little more doomsday. But I think the fans are excited and they think there's higher run game upside. Do sources around the program agree with that, Eric?
Well, yeah, I think we've been pushing that one pretty hard, especially last week. I wrote a couple articles last week, and one of them was about their optimism on the run game. They feel the profile of the offensive line is to be more aggressive and more powerful at the point of attack than the year prior. Now, the question for me is right tackle, but I think everything else is going to fall into place. I think, Cole Hudson is, not going to be as comfortable as Jake Maters and maybe not as good on the move laterally, but he's going to be better going downhill. At left guard, you've got a big upgrade as far as point of attack in Neto Zulu, who our sources say is going to win that job. They say he's a dog. He's a stud in the making. Just, it's just everybody has a different developmental timeline. You can't force them out on the field until they're ready unless you absolutely have to, and Texas hasn't had to. So I expect the left side of the line to be really good. Gooseby, I think everybody has a lot of confidence after seeing him play against Georgia, Clemson. Everybody's excited about him. So I think it's just really the question for me is continuity and cohesion, right? Because none of these guys have really played a lot together, and then figuring out that right tackle spot. But there's a pathway for this team to be better as far as what the offense is trying to do, running downhill, play action over the top with Arch. And then you're going to see these guys on the move a lot more as far as gap schemes. So we're going to see more gap schemes. I think that's going to help out the overall offense, including the running backs. And I think it suits some of these offensive linemen as well, too. So I'm really excited about it. I understand there are some questions, but our optimism is mirrored by the staff for sure.
Coach, how do you feel about that game plan? Gap scheme, more run heavy. Do you think they're going to be able to execute that better than our previous line?
I feel like because a lot of teams run that in high school, it's going to be something they're familiar with. I won't say it's a lot easier, but you got a lot of double teams to the second level that will really, really help you, right? If you bring along your development. You feel like you got your buddy next to you the entire time working to the next level, it makes it a lot easier, right? You can communicate better. It's me, you, when we get into that second level and pulling the whole nine. So I feel like they'll do well just because they're familiar with it. A lot of teams run it in high school. So it's not running the spread coming out of high school now. Like you get to the next level, like you've been running it since, Pee Wee. Everybody teaches it. So I feel like guys will be more comfortable and you play fast and you play a lot, you have less mistakes when you know what you're doing versus did I have this guy? Who do I have? And certain protections and things like that. So I feel like it'll be a lot better.
Part of the reason that they're so excited about Jared Gibson is they feel like they're going to have a numbers advantage more often than not than they had in prior years. And then he's the guy that can best take advantage of that. Got very good feet, ability to break a tackle and pick up, another 10, 15 yards than it was actually blocked for. I'm really excited about what we're hearing about the scheme shifts. I think the scheme shifts are probably, one of the things that haven't been talked about enough. Everybody gets focused on talent, who's replacing, all the turnover, the new guys coming in. But I think the scheme shifts are probably even a bigger part of it. Now we're going to need to hear more. That's probably more of an August thing. They don't really scheme. You hear a lot more about scheme in August. We'll hear about some tweaks here and there in the spring. But I think going into next year, the scheme changes that, catalyzed by Arch coming in, the new offensive line, I think is going to be one of the stories of the season.
When Ian and I were covering last week the run game, that was what stuck out about Jared Gibson. He gets contacted and he falls forward for like 6 yards consistently. And those hidden yards absolutely are going to matter. So that's what I think is interesting. If he can if you can pass block and do that, hey, now we got every down back. How do we feel about depth, God forbid, on the offensive line, though?
Yeah, that's a good question. The article this morning didn't really go too far into depth. Nate Kibble is viewed as somebody that could probably play this year. The person that doesn't win right tackle can probably play this year. Kojo. And there's also, I wouldn't rule out somebody playing a guard that one of the tackles playing guard. Maybe it's Jaden Chapman moves to guard or something like that. But depth is a concern. I would not be surprised if they took a journeyman offensive lineman out of the portal. If a good one comes available that could play right tackle in a pinch, maybe guard in a pinch, that has experience. But yeah, that's one of the storylines for sure at offensive line. Not just who's winning at right tackle or is Umi Ozulu living up to the hype, but who are the 7th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th guys? They haven't had that in the past. Now I do feel like Connor Robertson could play center, so that gives you extra depth at guard, because then Cole Hudson can play either guard spot if he needs to. So sometimes depth comes in funny ways. It doesn't have to be like who's the natural backup for DJ Campbell. It might still be Cole Hudson even if Cole Hudson's playing center.
Yeah, it's not that linear. Like we always think, like who's the backup center, but most of the time it's the guard scoots over to center and then you bring it. So it's a little trickier. Not because of NIL. The hope, yeah. So what do you think, Eric? I got nothing on this.
Yeah, odd feature says I hope the right tackle's the best man and not because of NIL obligations. And I feel the same way. Yeah, because obviously you get Brandon Baker from Modern Day, and you beat out Oregon and Ohio State for him. It's gonna be a whole lot more than getting the very lowly rated Andre Kojo, 16-year-old. Nobody was really after him outside of Texas. Maybe Oklahoma had some interest, but I think sometimes there are political considerations because of NIL, not just at Texas but everywhere.
Yep.
And I think coaches can lose credibility if they go by that for sure. We'll report who the best man or who we hear the best man is, and then we'll see if that aligns with who's out there on the field.
Man, pro sports, man, whatever they say, it's pro sports.
We're just hearing a lot of good things. We're just hearing a lot of good things about Kojo. So I'm curious to see how right tackle goes. And then Nick Brooks. I want to hear a lot about Nick Brooks. Nick Brooks seems like a more advanced timeline Andre Kojo, like a bigger guy that had to reshape, but he's well ahead of schedule.
Anytime you hear about these players that sources just kind of like throw out that aren't even truly in the mix, in like a year they're going to be a player, man.
Yeah. This guy, Tanner Reimerson. Hey, man, NIL money is kind of a sunk cost at that point. Got to play the best guy. Yeah, absolutely. Because, what's the alternative? You lose the guy that was too expensive. And I'm not saying that.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that that's the case with Brandon Baker. I'm saying theoretically, if the guy leaves because he lost his job, is too expensive, that seems like a positive to me.
Yeah, that's cap space.
Ravens.
Yeah. Just logically, not talking about him. All right, guys, before we keep going, let's hear from Andre the Lawyer.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the Lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
All right. We got a quick question. Did we see Chapman on the DL at one point last year?
No, he got some short yardage snaps. He might have gotten a short yardage snap against Ohio State in goal line. I don't know. He got one late in the season, but I haven't heard of him anywhere on the DL. No, that seems like a non-starter to me. The question for me is if he goes from tackle to guard. We'll have to follow that. But I haven't seen Chapman on the DL.
Yeah, normally it's DL to offensive line. Yeah. If it's very rare that the offensive line goes, because if you're that big and athletic enough for a defensive line, you normally stick on defensive line. All right, tight end. Not much.
Jordan Washington, Spencer Shannon, transfer portal. Emory Winston running good routes. It's just look, I love Jordan Washington. I think because of the quarterback run game, it might not be quite as important for him, and more not the quarterback run game necessarily, the threat of the quarterback run game. Tight end might not have to be as great of a blocker. I do think Jordan Washington, my ass is out there saying that he's going to have 50 catches this year. Now, if he's 45, cut me some slack, but I think he's going to have a big year as a receiver. Some of that's dependent on who they get. Now, I think they just need a journeyman sort of veteran tight end presence that can credible blocker, credible receiver. Doesn't have to be great in any one regard. Hopefully they add that guy. Then I'll be much more bullish on the position. Spencer Shannon, if he does have a good spring, and there's that potential. He had a good one last year that elevated him. It didn't manifest in playing time, but it got him further down the line. If he has another one like that, then we'll probably see him on the field quite a bit this year.
Yeah, I want a blocker. And he can be like 6'2". I don't care. He'd be a little guy. He needs to be mean. He needs to be from directional state. He needs to be 45 years old.
Hey, Spencer Shannon, just to foreshadow something. Spencer Shannon playing tight end at Modern Day really has helped Texas out on the recruiting trail in Modern Day.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have any really, really good tight ends this cycle. We can talk about that later, maybe.
Hey.
Kind of salty. Townsend didn't early enroll. So is Eric.
Yeah.
Oh man, it broke my heart. Oh man. Oh gosh. Because I view him as a 5-star talent, but man, that's going to be. That puts them a little bit behind. But if they just want a guy that come out and, hey, go run 10 routes a game, he might be your guy because he can definitely do that.
If he doesn't lose too much weight, right? Because he's running track on top of everything, right?
Well, yeah, but he ran track last year. When I saw him in August, he was still up to about 235 after track season. He was smart about getting the weight back on. So I think he'll do the same.
This is Joe the Rules Cook right here. Chapman, like Ogbo, had a receiver eligible number. You can't catch a forward pass wearing 50 through 79 in college. That's why he wore 88 for some goal line, not because.
Hold on a second. Joe doesn't have anything more important to do than watch this video.
Joe loves. He's a huge fan, Eric.
Big fan.
I got 4 guys tied up in this show. Holy crap!
No,
he does the economics here.
He does the retweets. All right, let's talk defense.
Here we go.
About time. Look at them getting short shifted. We got 36 minutes on offense and 24 minutes on the better side of the ball.
Yep. That's the unfortunate reality, too, of everyone likes the offense. But the reality is defense been carrying this team. All right, so Edge, Colin Simmons and Ethan Burke are the unquestioned starters. So do not question that.
I mean, there's no point in saying anything else other than that. My excitement here is getting to hear more about Zena Umeozulu with Colton Bostic out. We've been hearing really good things about Zena since the moment he stepped on campus. Had a great growth potential. You could see his frame, skinny at first, but just a matter of time with him. He's filling out great, natural bend, natural pass rush, hands, hips, feet, all in sync. Just has all those little things that the NFL evaluators are going to pick up on. He will be an NFL player. And because Bostic's out, he's got a chance to play. And really, depth isn't, with Trey Moore at linebacker, Smith Orogbo, true freshman, definitely on the skinny side, and you got Lance Jackson. I think Zena's going to play both sides at edge, but we'll probably see him behind Colin quite a bit to get Lance Jackson reps behind Ethan Burke. Yeah,
that's what I thought was super cool. So Colin, then Zena, Ethan, then Lance Jackson. Lance Jackson, I'm super excited for. Probably, I'm the most excited for him on the entire defense.
Holy shit! I didn't write about defensive tackle, did I?
Let me see. Tight end, edge, linebacker. No, man. So let's drop an exclusive, dude.
Golly, I'm gonna have to go write that when I get. How did I forget? You know what? Me and the source didn't even talk about him. Me and that source I talked to, we didn't even talk about D tackle. I think it's because we've been talking about him so damn much. But yeah, because I was thinking, what did I write about Justice Terry? I was like, I didn't write anything about Justice Terry.
Yeah, I honestly, when I read it this morning, I didn't even catch it because we have been talking defensive. I think last week we did like 30 minutes on defensive tackle, so it's like. We go there. No. Do you know roughly who the starters are there? Do you know if it's a Shaw or Brevard yet, or do you need to
D tackle? I heard it was going to be Brevard in January. Any time that there's a player that's been in the program and paid his dues, and it's at least credible to have him as a starter, they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt. That doesn't mean he's going to start, but January is credible as the next guy to start. But he's got stiff competition, obviously, with Shaw, maybe Hero Canoe, depending on where they play him. January, we've been talking up January quite a bit. So he's definitely probably one. If we could write a list of the 10 guys I'm most excited to cover, Zena would probably be one. His brother would be one too. Both, let's just say 2 out of 3 Umeozulu's on the roster. And I would probably have to have January in there as well, down to about 310 pounds, looking like a jumbo edge more than the freshman D tackle that arrived last year.
Any lead on if they're they think they're going to be a stronger pass rushing group or a run stopping group or?
They think pass rush is going to be the strength of the team, and I don't think it's just
pass rush would be crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's not going to just be from the. As we get deeper into this, you're gonna see how many different variations they can run out there, different schemes and sub packages, and so the pass rush is just not going to come from the front. I mean, there's a reason they didn't move Trey Moore at linebacker because they didn't have faith in Leonga Lafau. They moved him back there because he's a fantastic pass rusher, and they can bring him from different angles. So a lot of this is setting up for the pass rush. Now they feel good about the linebackers. They feel good about the secondary. Secondary is not going to be as good as last year. Linebackers are going to be better than last year, but they're most excited about pass rush.
Yeah, and it's not just going to be on 3rd and 10s. You know, that we're hearing too. They're gonna stress test you on first downs with some, I guess, dime looks or stuff like that. That's going to be such a pain because think as offensive coordinator with a lineup, you got to worry about Colin Simmons, Ethan Burke, Anthony Hill, Trey Moore. If McDonald ends up at star, we'll see later here. If he ends up at star, he can run and then if you have an interior pass rusher too, it's like I don't even know how you solve for that. It's going to be pretty crazy. Well, let's talk linebacker because we hit it a little bit.
There we go.
Opening sentence: Trey Moore versus Leonga Lafau is going to be a great competition, and there will be game plan considerations with these two. Trey is in his own lane, a unicorn. He can do anything, and he can still play edge. Let's talk about that battle for Will.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance that one guy is a starter 1 week, and then the next guy, or maybe the guy's a consistent starter, but one plays a lot 1 week and one plays a lot the next week, depending on what the offense is trying to do. That's why the guy says game plan considerations in there. This is a bad thing, actually. Odd Future says, thank goodness like 90% of the schedule is replacing their quarterback. Texas faced some horrendous quarterbacks last year. The only one, I'm not even sure it's a good thing that old boy at Ohio State's gone. They're going to get pass rush again a lot. And the new quarterbacks are going to be flummoxed by the dime looks. They're going to hold on to the ball. It's going to be that positive feedback loop of coverage, pass rush, coverage. That's definitely a reason to be excited about. Defense is going to be top 5 defense again in the country. Feel very good about that.
How do sources feel about Trey Moore truly linebacking? Talking dropping 10 yards back, covering ends.
Yeah, so they want to see more of that, obviously. But athletically, they feel like he can do any of that, no problem. We had heard when he first got to campus last January, they felt like he could do anything they asked of him. Highly instinctive player, natural with his movement skills, smart, aggressive, physical, closing speed, all those things. But there is that component that we need to hear about: reading flow, playing with proper linebacker tempo. There's a lot of natural aspects to linebacker, just as there are natural aspects to playing running back. It's not just about athleticism. That's why I think people are really high on Leonga Lafau. He plays with a lot of running back, good linebacker instincts, eyes, tempo. We saw him get a little over aggressive at times last year. He'll slow that down. He lost his gap a time or two. He'll slow that down, but you can see him. You can see how he reads the defense and plays with his eyes. That's why he's always around the damn football. I'm not sure that Trey Moore has it like that, but I'm not sure Trey Moore doesn't have to be like Leonga for that position to be really, really good.
Yeah, I thought we saw a little bit of Trey Moore against Ohio State. We saw him dropping pass coverage a ton in that game. He almost got an interception in the first drive, I would say. So he has some athletic ability in reading route concepts. So, I'm sure we'll get a lot more work this spring, but I think he'll be fine.
I'm going to pull up the All-22, and I'm going to watch Trey specifically because I think that'll be an interesting film study and can answer some questions I have. What's Leonga's ceiling as a draft prospect?
Yeah, just a dude asked that question. I would say 3rd round. Maybe, I don't know, ceiling. 3rd round. I'll say 3rd round because he's going to play football faster than he's going to run a 40. He'll probably be really good in shuttle stuff, though. He's excellent in drop back. He's the best guy they have in coverage at linebacker. That one's not really in question. Ty Anthony's going to get there, though. I think he's probably 2nd round ceiling. Ty Anthony I have as a 3rd round ceiling. Ant Hill is a 1st round ceiling. Trey Moore probably a mid-round ceiling. Bo Barnes too early to tell, but size, speed, that component is certainly NFL player. That whole room is probably going to – that whole room, and we have to say the whole room now because Brad Spence, too, is an NFL specimen. That whole room has got a high likelihood of being drafted. Now, there's one guy missing. Jonathan Cunningham is not in the linebacker room. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, that's all. I also forgot to mention, now you got to worry about Spence also in the pass rush. So, yeah, man, have fun, dude, on whatever breakdown days on Tuesday nights trying to –
Spence could credibly play Sam linebacker. He could probably credibly play edge if they had to. He could. We know he could back up Anthony Hill. He's probably going to start in 2026 after Hill leaves early. So I mean, just that room has come a long way since since 2021.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. We're a good football team now. Being able to cover this stuff is fun compared to 4 years ago. Outside of possibly defensive tackle, are we done at portal on defense?
I wouldn't say done, just because they're always looking for best player available. Anybody that upgrades the roster, if they got it, they've got some new coaches too, right? You got two new defensive back coaches. If they spot something that they need, or if they have a prior relationship with somebody that understands their scheme perfectly, or they feel like is a hidden gem NFL upside, or if they had, I think, 4 guys at Rutgers get drafted, or will by the time this next draft is over, I wouldn't rule it out. But obviously, the one that they're actively seeking is D tackle.
Cool. Football junkie, contrarian take here. If you take Hill out of that linebacker room, it's the worst in the SEC.
Oh my Lord!
Wow.
Most unappreciated player on Texas roster. Who's the most unappreciated? I don't know who he's referencing there.
Most unappreciated player on the Texas Texas. I don't know. Blake, you didn't have to pull it up. You didn't have to pull it up. You can read them before you pull them up, Homer.
I pull it up because Blake counters them immediately. That's far from the truth, football junkie. They have a ton of young talent in the room with Smith and Barnes. So that's our save, Eric, where we go, no, football junkie, you're incorrect. We have these
Ty Anthony Smith moves like a defensive back. Still getting bigger, but he's like Leon. Every time he's out there, you see him around the ball.
Yeah. Ty Anthony Smith, that's what I was worried about with Trey Moore, is moving him there, offsetting like Ty Anthony's development or Leongo's development. But how you're saying they're going to mix and match them, it's going to be game plan specific. Now I think we can maximize everyone. I feel
well, you got a lot of junkyard. I would call that room filled with football junkies, actually.
Yeah, it's that's going to be fun. All right, star/nickel, same position. If anyone's guessing who's going to start at star, we've been projecting Jelani McDonald here, and that may still happen, but coaches are exploring every option. So what's up there?
Yeah, I've heard differing accounts in the last week. One you would think is impeachable, but maybe something changed between hearing that and the last couple of days. I think Jelani McDonald prefers safety. Now he can still play star. It might be a rotational thing, situational thing, but they are going to throw the kitchen sink at the position. Jonathan Cunningham is there. That would be more of a change up, like playing, Maurice Blackwell at Sam or something like that. They're just looking for different ways to mix and match. I think one thing that Johnny Nansen did at Arizona a lot was work a lot of different game specific packages. So if you look at the different skill sets of all the guys that they're working at nickel, there's no way that they're all playing within the same scheme. There's just no way. They're all so different.
Right.
McDonald is way different than Ryan Niblett. Wardell Mack is probably the closest thing to a guy that you would leave out there at all times if need be. You could do it with Jelani too, but I'm not sure that he's quite ready to be the starter there. They're looking at Jordan Johnson-Rebel, who actually turned heads last fall when he played there. He's got the natural intelligence, physical toughness, good short area quickness. I don't know if you want him covering, insert your fast slot there, but probably wouldn't be too out of place. They're just going to look at it. Grayson Littleton is there, the true freshman. Now, he's not going to play much this year as a true freshman at a very tough position, but just give you an idea. You got a position that's got Jonathan Cunningham on one end of the spectrum and Grayson Littleton on the other.
Yeah, and you say too that this is a matchup-based personnel, which 100% that's what it's saying, and Nansen's philosophy from Arizona. So they want the ability to have big nickel. They want to be able to do all of that flexibility. And
when cover nickel with you would put Niblett out there on the fast slot guy if he's ready, or that's why I say Wardell Mack is your more Jahdae Barron, Jalen Gilbo plays 90% of the snaps. Now that's assuming he's ready. So that position is wide open, but also at the same time, we might not learn all we need to know about that one until August rolls around and they start getting a lot more scheme intensive and they start winnowing down who they're really going to play. Right now, it's just a lot of experimentation.
Yeah, and I mean, we could talk athletes and athletic fits. I mean, of course, that's a prereq. But man, at star, man, you got to be smart too. So that the person that's really going to pop there is the one who understands run game and the pass game. All right,
I was gonna
cool.
say, you think they did a little bit of that. Vandy and Arizona State, right? They moved McDonald to star, right? Because it fit what they were going to do. They were going to run the ball heavy. So we saw a little bit of it last year. So maybe they just expanded on it even more now.
Yeah.
Corner. It's looking like there's not much intrigue here. Malik Muhammad and Jalen Gilbo are favored to win the starting jobs, with Kobe Black playing that third corner as well. And then we'll likely take the mantle of the starter next year.
Yeah, Kobe just seems like it's Malik Muhammad was that third corner his freshman year. Gavin Holmes was the third corner last year. That's a very important position. I do think Kobe Black is going to end up being the third corner, but I don't want to sell him short. There will be some competition. It's just we know how heavy this staff waits for experience, and obviously Jalen Gilbo played a lot last year. He played a tough position. He's moving to an easier position. As funny as that is to say, cornerback is an easier position than star. This is where Jahdae Barron was able to excel and become a player that very few thought he could become. They're going to go with that route again. And I think Jalen Gilbo is going to be a good corner. Now, I think Kobe Black has a chance to be a great corner eventually. And so you wonder where that intersects between Kobe Black's raw athleticism, upside, and understanding of the position versus Gilbo's those traits that made him really good, that made him a good star candidate. He's tough, good short area quickness, better long speed than people realize. And I think, Gilbo's weaknesses are going to be mitigated a little bit too. He was not great in run support at times. So it's not going to matter quite as much playing corner as it does in star. So I think that's going to be a good competition, but I would bet that, Gilbo's going to win it. Experience, of course, is a differentiator. But that doesn't mean that Jalen Gilbo is going to be a better cornerback than Kobe Black. What matters now is who's better this year.
Kobe looks like a linebacker playing cornerback. Big dude. He is a big dude, man. Whenever you see him in the boundary, you're like, I'm
curious to see what they have him listed on the new roster. Those new rosters are always so wishy-washy, but he's around 200 pounds, and that's good. I don't want him any bigger than 200 pounds. Keep your quickness, keep your movement skills. You're already plenty big for the position.
Yeah. Don't get bigger. Do we good? All right, safety. They'll probably want to put Taff in bubble wrap like they did with Jahdae Barron last year, but I don't. Is he going to let him? Is he going to hide? Right.
Is he going to hide? Is he going to hide a razor blade? He's going to hide a razor blade in his mouth and cut his way out.
Yeah.
Probably. So we'll see. He might get some looks at nickel too.
That surprised me. That's a cool mix.
Well, he's done it before. He's
the linebacker. He's playing Jahdae. He played like Jahdae's will and dime. Right?
Well, he can do that as well. They can move that guy anywhere. He's going to know what to do anywhere. You could move him at D tackle and he'd know exactly how to twist. Now he wouldn't be able to pull it off, but he would know exactly what he's supposed to do. So they can play him anywhere. It's I think the best role is to keep him in the same exact thing he was doing last year. But yeah, so let's see who else you got. You got Xavier Filsaime. People are saying that kind of like we should have talked about Roberson at corner. Those guys are kind of in the same boat. Filsaime and Roberson, both becoming a little more focused. Focus often foreshadows the light switch coming on, and we start to hear these guys making more noise in practice. Those guys are kind of similar players. They're athletically in the 99th percentile when it comes to being gifted. Secondary guys. But they've got experience ahead of them. But Roberson, let's see what he can do. Same thing with Filsaime. He's got to take advantage of Derek Williams being out, Jelani McDonald kind of bouncing back and forth. I think Filsaime's got a chance to make some noise. I might put him in one of my 10 most anticipated guys I'm waiting to hear from. And then who else is there? You got Jordan Johnson-Rebel, of course. If Texas had to play a game tomorrow, if they kept McDonald at star, they would put Jordan Johnson-Rebel next to Taff. Of course, I don't know who would start at star at that point, but if they didn't have McDonald there, so everything's in flux. They've got a million different guys that can play different positions. This guy mentioned Akina right here. Who knows how Dwayne Akina might reimagine these guys 15 times over the next month as he becomes more familiar with them.
Yeah. The old
Kobe. That ain't gonna work. Kobe Black doesn't.
I was like, people have been trying to make Kobe a safety for like 3 years now, and it's not happening.
I've got something else we should document. Akina is in the NIL era. This is not 2006 anymore. 2005. Kobe Black's thinking. Kobe Black is thinking NFL upside, NIL upside too.
Yeah.
No, that's not. Would he want him? I think Akina had something to do with Niblett moving to
Star.
nickel. Yeah, I could see that. So I'm curious to see how Akina and Orfe view these guys differently from Gideon and Joseph.
Yeah, that's what I always really like when new coaches come in and you get the fresh eyes, and it can mix up the room. All right, and then special teams. I have to be very careful with some of this quoting here. Jeff Banks is not playing around on special teams. He knows the unit must become an asset last year. Last year, it was minor issues that got taken advantage of and turned into big issues. This unit needs to focus on being as detail-oriented as possible.
Yeah, just insert F-ups wherever he said issues. Guy got a little animated when we talked about that. Yeah, he said it was little issues, and of course those little issues can domino and become a bigger issue and lead to big plays. But it really is. It's a couple mental mistakes here and there that kind of shaped the narrative on the special teams season. They had a lot of guys to replace. Now they've had a chance to do that, so there's no excuses if it happens this year. They've got to get that fixed, but I think they've got the experience and they certainly have the talent for it. Gunners, I think, are going to – somebody asked about Gunners last week, are Niblett and Roberson, and that is oddly similar to Keelan Robinson and Keaton Crawford.
Yeah.
So that they're good in that regard. They're going to have to figure out returners. DeAndre Moore was probably going to be kick returner. He'll be gone. So I'm not sure exactly who's going to be at kick return. Punt return, any of those young wide receivers, Livingstone Butler, Jamie French, Dalen McCutcheon, they've got looks there. We'll see how that shakes out. And then kicker, I have no idea how kicker's going to look. Nobody's going to know until they're kicking in the shoe in late August.
Yeah, we have to pay attention to it this year too, because we've been kind of light on it. Man, that bit us. I like to hear who is the punt returner. To me, I think that's a proxy for like reliability too. So I always like to hear, and mental eval, right? It's like a pitcher in baseball. You're out there by yourself, man. Like your team's way up there. There's a psychological effect. There's a reliability effect. I always like to hear who ends up being the punt returner because it's
it sounded like Livingstone and Butler were the two favorites. Niblett would make a lot of sense to me, but I haven't heard him back there on punt return.
Cool. Well, that is the pre-spring breakdown, so you guys know where we stand at everything, and then what we're looking for going into spring ball. But we also have
if they want a transcript of this conversation, they can go over to Inside Texas, $1 for 4 months. 4 months. That's a deal.
Man, it's a hell of a deal. I mean, are we just giving it away here? Join Inside Texas.
We are deflationary over on Inside Texas.
Yep. All right. Before we go, though, our one and only Justin Wells put in an RPM for a 5-star offensive tackle.
Buddy.
Who was that offensive tackle, Coach? And what should we know about him?
Yeah, one Mr. Felix Ojo. What you should know about him is he's a competitor. I know it cannot be overused or overstated, but he is. Look, every time I see this guy, he's playing a new sport. It's football, it's basketball, it's track and field, throwing the discus and shot put. Now he's competing in OT7, 7-on-7 with like some of the best athletes in the nation. And he's not afraid of competition. You know, most kids hide away. You know, they're afraid to go into uncharted waters and compete. Like not Ojo. He doesn't shy away from it because he wants to be the number one guy in the nation, regardless of position. And so I got a chance to just kind of catch up with him, man. He loves to compete, but he sees what everybody else sees, the normal fan. Kelvin Banks, Trevor Gooseby, who's next? Maybe I can be the next guy left tackle, right? That's what Texas is recruiting him as. And he sees the pipeline. He sees what Coach Flood is building. He has a great relationship with Texas. Doesn't want to go far away from home. The cars and everything are just kind of lining up perfectly, right? And that's the guy you want to get off the bus first, right? He has that mentality you want. He's going to fight. He has a junkyard dog mentality. But he sees the line of, I can be the next guy. I can come here, I can be developed, and I can go off to the NFL, right? Who wouldn't want to be in that situation, right? You get a chance to play close to home, be developed, and go to the NFL. What else could you ask for? Right? And we all know education.
No, you're good. I was saying, is this the new rise of the 3-and-out tackles too? Like, what they expect that now, right? Like, they think it's crazy, man. You used to need to bake for 5 years, and now these guys are going to the league at like 21.
Yeah, and one of the things, and I got to tell Eric about this, it could be he loves the way Texas recruits. Like a lot of kids, they hear from coaches every single day. They're pestering, they're in DM, they're inboxing, trying to call them FaceTime. He's like, Texas showed you they want you, they love you, but it's not overbearing, right? They have the right balance. once a week. I may hear from Coach Wood, the O-line assistant coach. I may hear from Coach Flood. I may hear from Coach Sarkisian. But it's the right, perfect balance where they recruit me. So to hear a kid say that when they hear from so many coaches, it's really great. It's really great to hear that Texas is out to recruit kids to show you, hey, we're still interested in you. We love you. But we also want to give you your time too, because we understand you have a life. You know what I mean? So that was great to hear.
Yeah, we're not going to be weird about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's dope. Ojo would be a huge addition to the class. And then Flood would get right back in action with his 5-star tackles. That'd be really cool. All right, guys. Tomorrow it begins, and we will be covering a ton of practice reports. Every time we get something, we will be on video on our regular scheduled stuff, but also any quick hitters and stuff like that. So Inside Texas is a spot we are going to have you absolutely covered during spring ball. Even if there's not a spring game, you're going to know what's going on with the team. $1 for 4 months, guys. Come hang out. The funniest board. And also, you're going to leave a smarter fan if you're on Inside Texas. There's a lot of high-level discussions occurring over there. So join InsideTexas.com today. Chat, thank you guys for hanging out. You guys always help us drive the show. Eric, Coach, have a great Monday, y'all. Peace.